Hello everyone. We'll start with continuation of soil hydraulics chapter, in which we'll be studying what is the meaning of effective stress or effective pressure, and also an important concept which is known as critical hydraulic gradient. Of course, hydraulic gradient you know, but what is meant by hydraulic gradient as far as soil or soil hydraulics is concerned, we'll be studying in detail. Let us straight away go ahead. Okay, in this you have to mentally conduct some experiment. Let us have a balance which is showing to begin with a zero reading. Let's say everything is ideal and it is in air, right? And gradually we'll add the water here, assuming that this will be water resistant and it will be giving you a proper reading even inside the water. Okay, let us add the water, and water level has come up to this level. Let the water rise up to a level. Now what would be the reading? What is your opinion? Whether the reading goes more or less, or will it be staying at zero only? That is the question. You mentally register your answer, but the actual answer is zero. Though there is a water which is standing above this water balance pan, the reading will be still zero. Hydrostatically, if you think, because you have studied fluid mechanics, the water will be applying a pressure from the bottom, from the top downwards, and from the bottom also upwards. And because of that, it gets nullified, and the reading will be interestingly zero itself. Okay, then let us place the object weighing 100 newtons in air. It is weighing 100 newtons in air on the pan, but inside the water. Now if you put that kind of object there, which is weighing 100 newtons in air, now what would be the reading? What happens here is, observation, the level of water goes up, that is there. Okay, and now the reading is, say, 70 newtons. Obviously, when it is immersed into the water, you know that there will be a buoyancy force of buoyancy. Buoyant force will be trying to lift it up, and when you place it on the pan, let us say the reading is 70 newtons, right? Now the weight lost due to the immersion is 100 minus 70, that is 30 newtons, the weight lost. Okay, now if you think, what is the volume of water that is displaced over here, right? The volume of the water displaced will be equal to the volume of the object which has gone in. That is simple. But what Archimedes principle tells is, this 30 newton, which is the weight lost by the object which has gone inside, will be equal to weight of the liquid displaced. That is what we are trying to see here. Fine. Okay, the displaced water rises, which is equal to the volume of the object, obvious. And let the weight of the water which got displaced is, say, x. Okay. Now interestingly, this x means weight of the liquid displaced is equal to the weight lost due to immersion. This is known as, if you remember, it is Archimedes principle. Okay. Now what is meant by effective stress? Now look here, let the weight of an object in air is 100 newtons. When you place it on the pan in air, it will be giving you a reading of 100 newtons. Means the object is having a pressure on this pan is equal to 100 newtons. Effectively, this object is pressing this pan down with magnitude of 100 newtons. and this force with which the object is pressing against the pan of the balance is known as effective force, and the corresponding stress is known as effective stress. Here the force is gravitational force. Okay. Now let us put that into the water. Now what happens? You have just now seen that it is only 70 newtons. Okay. Let us place the object of 100 newtons on the pan but inside the water. Now the reading is 70 newtons, means though the object is weighing 100 newtons, effectively it will be putting a pressure, putting a force on the pan only to a magnitude of 70 newtons. Means, look at that, what has happened is only because of presence of water, because there will be a buoyant force which will be trying to lift it up, right? The pressure or the force with which the object is pressing down the pan is reduced. So the pressure with which it is effectively pressing the pan is known as effective stress, quite obvious. Now the weight lost due to immersion is 30 newtons. The object is pressing against the pan of the balance with effective force of 70 newtons only. That's why the reading is so. And this force with which the two objects are pressing against each other is known as effective pressure. And now, can you imagine the reading? If the water level increases, what happens to the reading? Means, suppose the water level has gone up now, and the reading now is 70 newtons, you are saying, right? Okay. Would you say 70 newtons is the reading? Yeah, it has come there, let us say, and reading is 70 newtons. Okay. Now, what would be the expected reading if the level of water here rises to some other level? What happens? Will it depend upon how much is the rise of the water, or will it not change? What happens? Yeah, no change is found in the reading. That's interesting. Even though the water level increases here, right? So though the water level goes up, right? Whatever goes up, it will be applying a pressure downwards, and the same pressure will be acting upwards also. Because of that, they get nullified, and this whatever 70 newtons is there, that will be remaining as it is. That is what the situation happens. So it is to be noted that in submerged condition, the effective pressure does not depend on the level of water. Whether it is submerged with only 1 meter of water above the object, or 10 meters or 100 meters of water which is there above this particular object, whether this is 1 meter, 10 meter, 100 meter, that will not be causing any change. It will be same. The effective pressure does not change or does not depend upon the height of the water or height of depth of submergence. Okay. Now one more example. Suppose a person is standing on a balance, he is showing some reading. Right now, gradually, what you do is you put the water, right? Now what happens is the water level rises, right? Let it rise up to a neck level. Now what happens to the reading? Will it remain same or will it change? In air, he was having a weight of something, let us say 600 newtons. Now will it be 600 only? 60 kg means approximately 600 newtons. 600 newtons. So will it be 600 newtons only here when the water rises up to that level, or will it be less? Okay. I don't know what you have imagined, but the thing is, it is reduced because it goes into submergence. The body goes into the submergence. There will be a buoyant force. Because of that, it may reduce to, let us say, 400 or 250 or 300 newtons, so that it will be reduced, so to say, right? Now here in this case, effectively the foot or feet of the man are pressing the balance with 600 newtons. Here, though his weight is 600 newtons, because of the buoyant force, the effective pressure applied on the pan is only 300 newtons. Because of that, the pressure is, the weight is 300 newtons. So effectively, how much the two objects are pressing against each other is known as effective pressure. Okay. Now let's say he holds, obviously there will be a change because it gets added up onto him, right, with whatever buoyant weight is there. Now if you imagine this as a 100 Newton object, right, so this will not be 400 because I had told you 300 plus 100. No, because we have already seen that under submergence this will be having only 70 newtons. So at this condition, if it is 300 by a person and this buoyant force or weight under the water is 70, so this reading can be 370 newtons. That's all. Okay, that is the effective weight of the object plus the person. That is the weight. Okay. Okay. Once again, the similar thing over here. The objects are on the left hand side, you have got in air. The water has risen up because of that. So there will be slight increase because of the additional pressure. Now effectively these two surfaces are pressing against each other with slightly more force. That's all. Now what is the pressure with which the two objects are pressing against each other is known as intergranular pressure, or it is also known as effective pressure. Now geostatic stress, what is it means? It means stresses due to self-weight are known as geostatic stresses. Means if you got a straight of soil, right, if it is the ground surface and ground level, and you have got layers of soil, let's say this is first 2 meters and then the soil is having some unit weight, obviously there will be a pressure, right? But suppose here the unit weight changes and then it is having 1 meter depth. Now what is the vertical pressure? Obviously this pressure plus this additional one. So that pressure, which is because of existence of soil, is known as geostatic stress, right? Obviously it will be acting vertically downwards. Now the terms start like total stress, effective stress, and pore water pressure or pore pressure. Now we'll read it, and let's say external loading increases the total stress at every point in a saturated soil above its initial value. The magnitude of this increase depends mostly on the location of the point. Okay, total stress will increase. It depends where the location is. The pressure transmitted through grain to grain at the contact through the soil mass is termed as intergranular pressure or effective pressure. It is known as effective pressure since this pressure is responsible for decreasing White's ratio and increasing the frictional resistance of the soil. These two are the effects of effective pressure. White's ratio decreases means it gets more compact, and moreover the particle resistance will be more because there is a more pressure in between. If the pores of the soil mass are filled with the water and if pressure is induced in the pore water pressure, then it tries to separate the grains. This pressure is known as pore water pressure or neutral stress. It is the same in all the directions. Okay, we'll see that in detail afterwards. The stress, either due to self weight of the soil or external applied force, or due to both at any point inside the soil mass, is resisted by soil grains as also by water present inside the pores or void spaces in the case of saturated soil. Total stress, in short, it is stress because of the soil as well as because of the water. Right? Total stress is because of water, because of soil. Now total will be effective stress or stress because of soil particles with particle contact, plus pore water pressure, which is also known as neutral stress. So sigma, the notation used for stress, equal to sigma dash is indicating effective stress, and neutral pressure or pore water pressure is represented by the letter U. So this is a very standard notation. If gamma B and gamma W are the soil bulk unit weights and unit weight of water respectively, then at any depth Z, effective, total and neutral stresses relationship may be expressed as sigma dash equal to sigma minus U, because it is, that effective stress is this minus this, and then at a depth Z, total pressure will be because of gamma B Z, and because of water it is gamma W Z. So that has to be subtracted, so that it will be effective stress. Now this gamma B has to be obviously including water, which is gamma saturated, which is equal to gamma dash Z. Of course, anyway, this is the beginning expression, and this will be of great help in analyzing many problem situations. Okay, total pressure, pore water pressure, effective pressure. These pressures are plotted on pressure diagram. These pressure diagrams, which plot the magnitude of vertical pressure as a horizontal length at respective levels, let us consider various cases for study. So what is meant by pressure diagrams, we have told you. Anyway, when we take a case like this, then you will understand. Very simple cases. Case 1, it is all water. There is no soil at all involved here. So there is water at a depth of H, which has got a unit weight of gamma W. The pressure at this point will be vertical pressure. If you take sigma V, it will be equal to gamma into H. But because it is a liquid, the pressure at this point will be same in all the directions, whether it is upwards, sidewards, etc. Pressure at point A equal to gamma WH, which is sigma V. In water at point A, the pressure in any direction, the magnitude of the pressure remains the same by Pascal's law. And then pressure diagram, if you want to draw, look here, it will be gamma WH here, and then if you are slightly at a lower level, let us say Z distance, then it will be gamma WZ, right? So it depends upon the depth with a power 1. Because of that, it is a straight line variation, or it is hydrostatic pressure distribution. It is exactly similar to hydrostatic pressure distribution. Okay, this is all water. Now let us say here there is a case of soil, all soil. There is no liquid involved, it's all dry soil. The vertical pressure at point B, here sigma V, which is at a depth H, with gamma as the unit weight, will be equal to sigma V at B. Vertical pressure at point B is equal to gamma into H once again. But the gamma is, let us say it is 17 kilonewton per meter cube. The depth is, let us say, 5 meters. Right? You can just see here kilonewton per meter cube into meters. It becomes kilonewton per meter square. That is what is the unit of pressure, kilonewton per meter square. So it is 85 kilonewton per meter square would be the vertical pressure. The pressure in horizontal directions will be different. It will not be same as sigma V as in case of fluids. Okay, because it is a soil, right? So horizontal pressure will not be same as sigma V. It will be different. It depends upon the condition, but it will be different. It may be more in some cases, or it may be less in some cases horizontally, but it will not be same as sigma V vertical pressure, right? At the point B, horizontal pressure will not be same in case of soil, but vertical pressure for sure it is gamma into H. Okay. Now, case 3, where there is a layering of soils or stratified soil. H1 first top depth is 2 meters with a soil having a unit weight of 15 kilonewton per meter cube. H2, the second layer, is 3 meter depth and then having a unit weight of 17 kilonewton per meter. In such case, if I want to find effective pressure, total pressure, etc. But anyway, we are talking about total pressure because there is no water we are considering yet. So at this level, it will be gamma into H. Because of that, it is 15 into 2, that is 30 kilonewton per meter square. Now below that, it increases at a rate of 17 up to 3. Right, so this additional pressure will be equal to 17 into 3, 51. So if you want the total pressure because of the whole soil existing, it will be this 30 plus 51, total it will be 81 kilonewton per meter. This diagram which shows vertical pressure is known as is known as pressure diagram, right? Okay, here there is one more case which is with surcharge, means there is a soil here, but above the surface of the soil there is a some pressure which is acting because of many reasons. It can be, means maybe some wooden planks are arranged, or some stones are existing, or brick bats are existing, or something that will be lying above the ground surface, right? Maybe a sand is laid, something like that, and the pressure because of the existing material is 25 kilonewton per meter square, which is referred to as surcharge above the soil, right? So whether you sense that soil at this level or at that level or at that level, it's always 25 kilonewton per meter square all along. Because of that, the pressure diagram will be with the same intensity 25 everywhere without the depth. Okay, that is because of the surcharge, and because of the soil, as you go deeper and deeper, there will be more and more pressure, which is directly proportional to 18. 18 is the 18 kilonewton per meter cube would be the gamma, or the unit weight of the soil. Now at a depth of 5, it will be 18 into 5. So this additional pressure because of the soil is 18 into 5, 90. If it is only 1 meter below, it will be 18 into 1. If it is 2 meter below, 18 into 2. If it is 5 meter below, it will be 18 into 5, like that. It's 90. But this existing 25 is already there. So 25 plus 90, that will become 115 kilonewton per meter square as the total pressure that will be acting, right? So this is total pressure diagram because of soil with the surcharge. Now, all the cases 1 to 4 were not involving water table. Because of that, we were talking only about pressure, which is known as total pressure. The total pressure itself will be effective pressure in such cases. That's important. When there is no water table, whatever pressure is there, that total pressure itself will be effective pressure in such cases. But as the free water table enters, the pore water pressure comes into action, and the effective pressure will be different from the total pressure, and that will be given by sigma dashed is equal to sigma minus u, total pressure minus pore water pressure. The effective pressure cannot be directly measured. Sigma dashed cannot be measured, but we can always calculate sigma and u, and difference is nothing but effective pressure. Okay, now there is a case where the water table is there at a depth of 1 meter, and inside this dry region the unit weight of the soil is gamma 1 18 kilonewton per meter cube, and below the water table saturated soil is having 22 kilonewton per meter cube, and we are talking at a depth of 3 meters. Now if I want to draw a diagram which will be drawing total pressure diagram TPD, because of existing full unit weight, right? So at a depth of 1 meter, obviously it will be 18 into 1, right? This continues, and below that it continues with a rate of 22 for depth of 3. So this additional is 22 into 3, that is 66. So 66 plus 18, that will be 84 kilonewton per meter square is the total pressure at this level, and this pressure diagram is known as total pressure diagram, which shows the variation of the pressure as the depth increases. Now minus, we have to have pore water pressure diagram, which is also known as neutral pressure diagram, right? Now here there is no water, because of that the pressure is 0. And inside the water, when you go down, obviously you know that gamma WH would be the pressure. So inside the water at depth of 3, it will be gamma W into H2. So that will be 10 into 3. I have considered gamma W as 10. Of course, it is 9.81. For exact calculation, you can take gamma W as 9.81. But herein, I have considered 10. 10 into 3, 30. So this has to be minused. Now if you draw effective pressure diagram, now this triangle minus this, it remains the same triangle, right? Now this triangle minus this triangle, that will be 66 at the base, 30 at the base. 66 minus 30, that will be 46. 66 minus 34, 36. So that additional pressure will be only 36, but this 18 remains as it is. 18 plus 36, that will be 54. So effective pressure diagram will be like this, right? This is effective pressure diagram with water in between. Now suppose the water has come up to the top level, and there are two layers with a different no, it is a case of water above the ground level. Look at this. Here there is a ground level, and then water has gone up above that for 2 meters, and I have considered gamma W as 10 kilonewton per meter cube. Now again I will draw total pressure diagram. As usual, gamma W into 2, that is 10 into 2, that remains as it is. Further down it will be 22 into 4, 88 plus 20, that is 108 kilonewton per meter square. This is total pressure diagram minus, because of the pore water, it is inclined with a rate of 10 into 2 at this level, additional 10 into 4, or 10 into 6 total, it will be 60, right? So here the difference of total pressure diagram minus pore water pressure diagram gives you effective pressure diagram. Obviously this water pressure cancels off, and you will have 108 minus 60, that is 48 kilonewton per meter square at the base would be effective pressure, right? So this is 22 minus 10 into 4, that will be 48. Okay. Okay, next case, saturated because of capillary rise. Here, what you can observe here, there is a free water table at this level at a depth of 2 meters. But what has happened is, for 1 meter there is a capillary rise, sucking of the water is there. Because of that sucking action, capillary action, the 1 meter the water has risen up and covered all the pores. It is fully saturated. Above that it is dry. Now what you have to draw is again total pressure diagram minus pore water pressure diagram minus this difference is equal to effective pressure diagram. We'll see it. Let's say 18 is the unit weight in the upper layer, so 18 into 1, that triangular portion. Here it is saturated, because of that it will be 22 into 1, 22 into 1 additional, and then this is 22 into 2, 22 into 2. So total pressure at the base, if you look at, it is 18 plus 22 plus 44, so that it will be 84 kilonewton per meter square. Okay. Now minus, see, free water table pressure will be hydrostatic. So from here down it is a triangle with let's say 10 kilonewton per meter cube as of water. So 10 into 2. But because of the sucking action, because of the suction, right, the pressure because of capillary will be negative, and this straight line continues in the negative direction. So this is plus, this is minus, and for a height of 1 meter, so it will be this way, and this arm will be 10 into 1. This is minus, this is plus, all this is plus. Now when you subtract, obviously this 18 will not lose anything, so that is 18, but at this level there is minus of minus 10. So what happens is, for this 18 there will be addition of 10. Now if you come at this level, right, there is already 22 plus 18, that is 18 plus 22 and minus 0, and at the base level it is 84 minus 20. Anyway, this will be 18 plus 22 plus this difference, which is 44 minus 20, that is 24. So obviously it will be 64, right? There is slight old writing in there, so I'll tell that this is 64. Okay. Anyway, what you have to note down here is, if saturation is because of capillary there, right, then negative water pressure acts to pull the soil particles down, hence there will be a rise of effective pressure. That is what one should remember. Okay, so we'll be solving the problems in the next session. We'll stop here.